Roughly 10 years of covering Canik firearms. This is model number 14 or 15 on, well, the home of true journalism for firearms. We've got the Canik MC9 Prime tabletop review and field strip coming up next, right here on And if you're wondering how one could name so many models of Caniks, head on over to my website. I'm sorry, YouTube won't let me tell you the name of that site, but I'm sure you guys can find it, or just Google, the parent company of YouTube, the Canik Guide. You'll see all the models there. Full reviews, at least those that YouTube hasn't deleted, as well as some of my commentary and the deeper dive reviews that are on there. With the Mete line, we saw what I find to be the third generation of Caniks, and a real clear departure from the roots in that it's now, in my opinion, completely independently a Canik gun. As far as design features, of course, it was originally inspired by some of the Walthers. The Prime takes the MC9, the micro compact, and brings it to another level. As we see with this case, this hard, it's got a rubber seal up top. It's got lock spots, this travelable case we first saw introduced with some of the higher end lines, and the Prime is is sticking right with that. We've got two additional back straps, the Canik tool inside. If you haven't seen the inside of one of these, check the pinned comment in the article. I'll lay all it out, but basically in this are all of the screws and bits that you will need to do any maintenance on the gun, and that end there is the bit driver. So this is a very handy thing to keep in your range bag for all the tools that you need. You can see we also have some cutouts here in case you've got one of the Canik optics. Their tools fit into these cutouts. This particular example did not come with one. This is a media sample that was sent to me by Canik because, well, I've become the authority on Caniks. We've got a nice envelope here. There you go. There's your description of what's in the tool. Nice laminated card. And they also include this laminated card. Ever since the beginning, folks have been a little confused by the takedown of the Canik being slightly different. So there's a nice big obvious one here to make sure you don't screw that up. It is one of the takedown styles that I believe Wilhelm Bubitz created as a way to have a better seal in the gun. Here is our manual. Somehow I ended up with two copies. As always, we will take a look at this manual because I believe it shows us how well a company wants you to understand the firearm. It also is a little CYA for me as I field strip this thing, and YouTube then tries to restrict it, saying that I'm gunsmithing or disassembling the gun. When I flip through these pages, yes, you and I are looking at the manual, but it's also for the YouTube reviewers to be proved wrong once again when I show them that I'm doing nothing to this firearm that isn't part of end user level safety. As we look at the manual, we see quite a list of safety rules, 10, rather in depth. I did not see in here any ammunition warnings. There's your specs. You can pause and squint or check the pinned comment. I'll have them all listed on my site. And the no ammunition warnings was an interesting thing for me because this is a ported gun. And if you've paid attention to the latest ported craze, you've also probably noticed that ported barrels do come with an actual safety risk, not just the jetting hot burning gases, but also if you use plated ammunition. Many ammunition companies do not tell you if their ammunition is plated or if it's an actual jacket, and people end up with little pieces of brass flying off into their face and things like that as it hits the ports. Canik has a solution for that I noticed on this gun that I bet you won't see on one of the influencer videos. So I'll be pretty proud to show you that in a moment. I think we've satisfied, or at least we should have satisfied, the manual reviewers here. I also did not see anything in here about plus P ammunition. However, I've historically known Caniks to be built to CIP specs, which would include 124 NATO. 124 NATO is 10% higher pressure than SAMI spec, what we use here in the US, and 10% higher than SAMI spec is also the same specs for plus P. So if it can run NATO, it can therefore run plus P. Why is that important? Well, because we have a barrel shorter than 4 inches, which means you may want to use plus P ammunition to get full velocity out of the round. We've got 2 layers in this case. Up top you can see we have 2 magazines, one in the gun, a spare, a loader, or lock. We have a G-code holster. And removing below, we've got the paddle. Sorry about this hardware here. My holster came partially disassembled. Not a big deal, it happens. Punch tool, brush, and cleaning rod. Get that stuff out of the way. And this holster seems to be fairly nice. The retention on mine is set to be insanely tight. There we go. But a nice holster and definitely a continual upgrade. It's been kind of funny over the years. The Canik was one of the first that I knew of to include a holster with their gun. And the holsters, of course, were always criticized. That's going to happen no matter what. Holsters are definitely a personal preference choice. If you don't think so, you haven't tried enough holsters. Where you carry, what you carry, your body shape and size, your clothing style, your comfort threshold, all of those go into what makes a holster good for you or not. This seems plenty strong. It was nice, except for the fact that this piece here came pretty disassembled, but whatever. What's a couple minutes with a screwdriver, especially when the gun comes with one. Let's get this stuff out of the way and take a look at the gun. I'm sure some of you are about to say, but Graham, I just got an MC9. Why do I need the Prime? And please, 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 as I've said many times, stop calling me Butt Graham. That is not this account. The Prime is sort of the, well, it's the top end of the MC9 line with a lot of enhanced features over the originals. The originals were good to begin with, of course, but now we've got an aluminum flat-face trigger versus the curve. We have enhanced traction. You notice that the traction bits are going up higher into here, which, though can give a little resistance on a draw, it definitely allows for more surface area traction for smaller, lighter guns, which this is. That helps quite a bit, and this is more aggressive. It is noticeable as soon as you pick it up. You notice our memory pad has also gotten larger. We've got different slide cuts, giving a little bit more style, as well as removing some weight. And we've got a little aluminum mag well built in. My model, for some reason, came with 10-round magazines. Measure 114 is unconstitutional. It was halted by the courts, but I guess for safety's sake, Sentry sent a limited mag to Oregon. I need to get out of this state. But the good news is, and I'm sure you guys know, when it's only limited by that dent, there are solutions. Also, I still have proper magazine from my regular that fits just fine. Even the traction on the base pad is more aggressive there. This is great in case you're unfamiliar with the proper way to clear a Type 3 malfunction. Don't worry if you are and you're thinking, wait a minute, I thought I had to grip the mag. I've got a video on that explains how to do that without needing to grip the mag, so you can do it with any gun and you don't have to get specialty base plates or gun shop around that. Now, the big deal that I noticed, so you can see we've got these side ports and top port on the barrel and slide to match, and that was a concern of mine. I'm personally not a big advocate of ports on a defensive carry gun. Made a video about that as to why, but I was extra concerned with a shorter barrel also being ported, thinking, man, that could be if you end up with jacket shaving because of a plated bullet, that could be really nasty. But check this out. Come on. You get the camera to look down in there. You notice what you're not seeing in the end is rifling. And as I rotate this down, you see the rifling ends prior to that. That means that we've got a larger diameter after the rifling. The bullet should already be stabilized, and we should not have jacket nicking the edges of those ports. If my theory is correct, this means we shouldn't have shavings popping off. In the name of science and wearing protective equipment, I will shoot a bunch of ammo through this in the range video and let you know if I feel or see any jacket shavings coming off. But this seems to be another clever Canik solution to a common problem. You might recall on the TTI that they did not thread the barrel for the muzzle weight that's on it. It's a ported barrel with a compensator looking device muzzle weight on top. That muzzle weight is not necessary for the Canik TTI to function, but the important bit is its attachment is through a quarter turn piece using engagement lugs on the barrel rather than threads. So it's not a threaded barrel, and it's technically not compensated either. It's a ported barrel that has a muzzle weight on it. That helped get around some rules. So hats off again to Canik for creativeness on solving those things. Now let's take a look at this gun normal GB gun style. Alright, on to fit, finish, and features. With the slide lock back, do we get magazine ejection or release? And we get nice ejection. Look at that kick. I love that. That helps boost out. Now, a steel mag inside polymer, of course, is going to be smooth, but if you train, sometimes these get dirty. Back in the days of front sight, I used to go at least once a year out in the Nevada desert, and it's amazing what a little bit of dust can do to make mags a little tougher to get in and out over time. All right, we've got ambidextrous slide control. How does it work from this side? You can see I've got all 4 fingers over here, just the thumb. Easy. Locking open, and it works. Nice job there, Canik. All right, coming up to the front of the gun, we've got that kind of snout cut. I appreciate this little trick. I've seen a couple companies do now. That helps reduce slide mass, because slide mass is part of where your felt recoil comes from. The lighter the slide is, the less weight slamming to the rear. Notice our serrations are good and deep, quite an improvement over the originals, and even a bit of a ledge back here just in case you miss. Speaking of ledges, you see our rear sight is a nice ledge as well. Of course, it's optics cut. Probably going to be for the smaller optics. For a list of those or what's compatible, check the pinned comment. I'll put those in the full review. We've got a couple spots of rail slot, our enhanced traction also on the front of the trigger guard for those who like to grip up there. Memory pad, a double undercut of the trigger guard, and this is, well, it should be a 17 rounder. I've got a 10 round version, but I get my whole hand on there thanks to the magazine well. The magazine well itself, as you can see, tapers nicely. We have a little bit of a catch on the side there, but overall should help. I like that it does not extend out the rear. That helps with keeping this concealable. A lot of the original kind of race gun inspired mag wells that flare out huge in the back also make them difficult to carry. That texture you can see wraps all the way around, including up higher here where it didn't on the previous models. The back strap is removable by removing the screw to take the mag well out, and then from there slide off your back strap and replace with the others. YouTube prohibits me from showing you how to do that. Unfortunately, they just don't want you to know how to safely use a firearm, I guess. Slide to frame fit. We have a little bit of play in the rear and definitely some play in the front. That's not something to worry about because your sights remain aligned. Now, something about the sights, you notice because we have the ports here, that the rear sight is behind those ports. That shortens your sight radius a little bit. Does that really matter? It can to some. I think most people these days are slapping an optic on the gun anyways. And just to compare it with this MC9L, as far as sight radius, we're still getting, well, the same sight radius, so it shouldn't be an issue there. If you want a longer sight radius and run irons, you're just going to need a bigger gun. Our sights, by the way, we have 2-dot rear and a nice night vision front sight. Night vision is my favorite of the night sight companies. That's another thing that comes down to personal preference, but what I've found is those polymer rings around the tritium make for great daytime eye-grabbing attention, and then of course you got tritium at night. In fact, these appear to be tritium in the rear as well. We have a striker indicator to let you know if the striker is cocked. Now these are a pre-cocked striker. See, as I pull back, that striker's not moving much, it just releases. That's part of what gives them such a light and easy trigger. Whether or not you feel comfortable with that is a matter of personal preference. Speaking of trigger, this is an aluminum trigger with a nice broad diamond cut safety dingus on there. That dingus prevents the trigger from moving on impact, but since we're here, let's do some trigger talk. Light, easy take up. You can feel the safety is deactivating on the way back. and a break right at the 90. Good and crisp. Very short, crisp reset just in front of the wall again for another nice break. Man, this traction grabs. I can feel it hold my hand. It'll be great when I hit the range. This won't matter in the future, but for those of you watching this, like the patrons who are watching this the same day it's done, I was out of the country for 2 weeks, came back to one of the worst flus that I've had that had me not eat for 3 days. Today is my first full day back, and it's also the only day for the next 3 weeks that I can get to the range. Temperatures in the 40s, rain expected all day long, so I'm filming this and then I'm going to rush out to the range and do the range portion in the wet and cold, coming off of a flu. Not ideal shooter physical condition, but a great test for the gun, and the enhancements on here should help make that mean a little bit less. And that is, to drift off on a little bit of a tangent here, what a lot of these performance enhancements do. The increased traction on the slide, on the gun, the crisper trigger, maybe the porting, things like that. They help you shoot a little bit better. They won't make a bad shooter good, but they will help maintain a higher level of shooting. And if you're like myself, and I dare consider myself to be a decent shooter, they can help compensate a little bit for when you're not totally on your A game. And that's where I think integrating some of these performance enhancers into a carry gun is a great idea. Because while we can all go to the range and have a great day, sometimes we have a slightly off day, defensive use of a firearm is definitely not going to be our A game situation, because it's going to catch us by surprise most likely. Or maybe you were totally relaxed, maybe you've had a beer at dinner and then have to draw your firearm. There's so many things. Could be the end of a long day, could be on a long drive. The times when we become a target are usually when we seem like we're a good target or a potential victim. So having a firearm that gives you a wee bit of an edge to counter, to help balance and even the odds a little bit, is in my opinion a good idea. That's why I tend to only carry guns that I shoot very well in all conditions. For those of you carrying concealed, that means practice your gun when you're tired, practice your gun when the weather is lousy, when the lighting isn't right, when you don't have your ideal ammo. Don't fall for the gun gamer stuff. Now, competition shooters can learn a lot about max performance, but keep in mind they're also seeking max performance at all times, both personally and out of their firearms. Chances are pretty slim that unless it's a weather condition, they're doing much in less than optimal conditions. Us defensive shooters, we need to seek out those less than optimal times and go hit it. Go practice with it. As an NCO, I took my soldiers into the field because they were complaining that it was cold during normal work days. It was -4 in Germany, and I was tired of hearing them say they were cold, so I thought the best way to teach them to use their gear was a 3-day field problem out in the woods. And after that, no one complained about being cold anymore. Maybe they learned a lesson, but also they learned how to use their gear, and they learned what they were truly capable of. And after that experience, standing around the motor pool for an hour didn't seem so bad anymore. And I tried to apply that same attitude towards training for myself. That includes doing things when I'm jet lagged, doing things when I'm not feeling so great, such as I'll be doing at the range later today. Rant over. Now let's field strip the prime and take a look inside the gun. Field stripping the Canik, as I mentioned, is a little bit different. You notice we don't have a whole lot of opening at the back. That's part of that Bubitz inspired design that I was talking about. We're going to first check for clear. Nice serrations work there. I do like how these lines on the barrel hood match the serrations on the slide. Not a necessary touch, but a good looking touch. So we're checking for clear. We're going to release the striker, pull down on the takedown tabs, which are on both sides, and then bring the slide back just a wee bit. You'll feel those tabs come down a little. The slide will come forward a touch, and then it comes off the top. And you have to kind of find the sweet spot. It is possible to overshoot it. There we go. And we can take a look inside. Nice black frame. It makes that steel stand out nice and bright. just curious. Now, they do have a long lever arm spring to activate across the ways there, but the Canik has really done a good job at making sure that these ambi slide lock release levers work on both sides. Taking a look inside of our slide. See, nice weight removal throughout. We also have a dual captured recoil spring. That's a favorite of mine. The only thing better is 3 springs, like with the DPM system. But these tend to help make it easier to rack because you've got some less resistance at the beginning, and then the resistance stacks as the springs compress, and that's what helps tame recoil. So you end up with an easier to rack and softer shooting gun, in my opinion, my experience of using a multi-spring system. Tap the barrel down to unlock it, scoot it forward a bit and out, and you can see we've had some flutes to reduce some weight there, help keep the whole gun nice and lightweight. Good look inside the slide there. And we'll take a look at chamber fit. For chamber fitment, I'll be using a piece of Liberty Ammunition Civil Defense. This is a nickel plated round. I use this for this check because I know it to be good ammo, and the nickel plating is corrosion resistant, which is great for a round like this that I handle all the time. We're going to drop it in and listen for a plunk. It's a little shallow, but it did go all the way in. See if it can rotate freely, and it can. That's how we check for burrs in the chamber. I recommend you do this on all guns the first time you get them. It doesn't matter to the manufacturer. If you've watched the channel for a while, you've probably seen that I have caught a couple guns having an improper chamber, and then took them to the range and demonstrated the problems that have come from that. It's just a manufacturing thing that can happen. Something to check for. It saves you a lot of headache in the long run. We're also looking to see if we've got a fully supported chamber, which is there anything beyond the shoulder that is exposed? As you can see, we have a fully supported chamber here, and that is important because with a suboptimal barrel length, that is 1 under 4 inches for 9mm, you may want to use plus P. Reason being, your hollow points, now this happens to be a plus P round, but your hollow points are designed to operate within a velocity window. And to get that velocity, they need the speed that the round was loaded for. And that, by SAMI spec, is for a 4-inch barrel. So anytime you go under 4 inches, you run the risk of your hollow point maybe being a little slow. Now there are loads out there to compensate for that. There's small gun, compact gun. You can see different manufacturers label them differently. Loads that are meant to burn quickly through short barrel. I mean, heck, we've got SIG has some. The other option is just to go with plus P, like those SIGs were. There's also the 365 ammo, etc. But were we to not have a fully supported chamber and the case to rupture, which can happen with reloads, overpressure rounds, a manufacturing error of some sort, an unsupported chamber gives the brass a chance to rupture and send some of that 35,000 psi, or if you're using plus P, more, back into your hand, wreck your gun and give you a bad day. When it's fully supported like this Canik, it helps keep all that pressure going out the barrel towards the target, which is where I like to keep the pressure going. As I reassemble this, I'll tell you about what you can expect in the shooting impressions video. You'll see my absolute first shots through the gun. No practice shots, no warm-up shots, and definitely no highlight reels on this channel. This is a real review journalism. This is not influencing. I'll give you any impressions that come from those first moments because I think those are vital. That's something that we as consumers will all experience and can set the tone for how you feel about the gun. From there, we'll do full magazine plus 1. I'll do it with these silly 10-rounders. I'll also use the long mag from my other MC9 to help make the review go a little quicker. We'll take it over to the What's for Dinner table, see what the gun eats with 10 additional loads, going from silly light to silly heavy, different case materials, etc. Make sure the gun runs with those. Then to the spinner for sights and trigger control. We're going to have a little bit less energy. This is a 3.63 inch barrel, but should be good enough to get it done. And we've got a great trigger on here. Then some practical accuracy, which is 5 shots from 7 yards at a 1 inch square, before I give you my concluding thoughts. I paused on the reassembly to point something out here. We've got these little steps. I'll zoom in to make that a little easier to see. Those little steps right there, cut into the slide. That's what you want to line up with the front rails to get this back together. And what I do is I just kind of roll it over the top, seat it down, and bring the slide back, and now we're back together. Quick functions check. Everything's good. As always, for full specs, the deeper dive review, and close-up photos, check the pinned comment or head on over to the website. Traditionally, I publish those articles well before these videos. Lately, I've had a bit of a time crunch. Like I said, a week in Germany, a week in Finland, then the flu. Everything's kind of thrown me off my rhythm for a bit, but things will get back in order soon enough. Thank you guys for 10 years of support. Thank you, Canik, for 14 or 15 now. Excellent guns. See you on the road.
GBGuns, and I do 2-level. Andrew P. Joseph T. Randy A. Al G. Peter A. Tom Moises S. Fast Eddie Thallow 215 Brian P. Sky King Derek S. Jr. Donald H. Jenna I. Greg K. David F. Tip level David P. Kratos Godslayer Andrew B. Lee H. Christopher JJS Farhan Glide Frost Jeff O. Michael W. David G. Oking Tuba Robert B. Ohio Cruffler Steve of Bristol County Jr. Rich R. Seven Sitch, Uncle Munzie, Ann B, Laura P, Andrew C, Tattoo Johnny, Justin H, Brian K, keeping things honest level, Gary B, Life S, Daniel D, Ed Z, Jake J, Brad M, George A.